Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom, aka Victor Von Doom, is one of Marvel's most iconic villains, a brilliant scientist, master sorcerer, and dictator of Latveria. He's basically what happens when you mix Tony Stark's brain, Doctor Strange's magic, Darth Vader's aesthetic, and the ego of Kanye West. Victor had a tragic backstory. His mother was a sorceress who died at the hands of Mephisto, and his Romani father died fleeing from an angry mob. This gave him a deep hatred for humanity. He then went to college in the US, where he roomed with Reed Richards and, because of his insufferable arrogance, refused to listen when Reed pointed out that his science project, which is a machine to save his mom's soul, had a tiny flaw. The machine then exploded in his face, leaving him scarred, which in turn made him extra mad at Reed. So instead of learning humility, Victor ran off, got some magic lessons from Doctor Strange, built himself a suit of armor, and declared himself superior to literally everyone. He once literally skinned his ex-girlfriend alive to make a suit out of her flesh, so he could boost his magic powers. Doctor Doom isn't purely evil. He sees himself as a necessary ruler who believes that only he can bring true order to the world. The Q. The Q is a mysterious, ancient alien species from the sci-fi setting of All Tomorrows by C.M. Kozman. These guys are the ultimate intergalactic jerks. Instead of just conquering planets like normal evil aliens, they took one look at humanity and thought, what if we made these guys really weird? So instead of just wiping us out, the Q decided to play space god and genetically modify humans into all kinds of bizarre, horrifying, and often humiliating forms. Imagine waking up one day and realizing your entire species has been turned into blobs, worms, or literal furniture. That's what the Q did. Except it wasn't just a one-time prank. It was a whole artistic obsession. They were like intergalactic bioengineers with the mindset of a 5-year-old who just discovered Play-Doh. And then there were the literal human carpets. Some poor souls were transformed into organic rugs, existing only to be walked on by their alien overlords. Just imagine the existential crisis of being stepped on daily while knowing you were once capable of calculus. Why did the Q do all this? Science? Power? Deep philosophical experimentation? Nope. They were just really into messing with things for fun. And then, like all bad house guests, they got bored and left, leaving behind a planet full of nightmarish evolutionary dead ends. Ridley. Ridley is basically the space dragon of your nightmares from the Metroid series. He's the archenemy of Samus Aran and a high-ranking space pirate, which means he's not just evil, he's corporate evil. But instead of stealing pensions, he's out here committing intergalactic war crimes. He's a giant, hyper-intelligent, sadistic, cybernetic pterodactyl who thinks Saturday plans means genocide. He's not misunderstood. He didn't have a rough childhood, unless you count being a space lizard, which I guess could be hard. He didn't just wake up one day and choose villainy. He soared into it, cackling like a maniac and flapping his horrific wings. This wrinkly balls, dragon-looking murdered Samus's parents in front of her when she was 3. That's right, he literally swooped down, torched the colony where she lived, and ate her mom like a McNugget. This was Samus' origin story. You thought Bowser or William Afton had a resurrection problem. Ridley takes it to another level. Samus has killed this dude so many times, but he keeps coming back, sometimes as a cyborg, sometimes as a zombie, sometimes as an even bigger dragon. Basically, Ridley is Space Satan, a dragon-shaped horror who exists solely to ruin Samus's life. And the worst part? He loves every second of it. Davy Jones. He is a mythical figure associated with the sea, most famously portrayed as the villain in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and At World's End. His character is based on maritime legends, where Davy Jones' locker refers to a sailor's final resting place at the bottom of the ocean. He was originally a regular old pirate who fell in love with the sea goddess Calypso. She gave him the job of ferrying dead sailors to the afterlife, which honestly sounds like an okay gig, sort of like an Uber driver for lost souls. But then Calypso ghosted him, so he cut out his own heart, locking it away in a chest. Instead of dealing with his heartbreak like a normal person, maybe writing sad poetry or drinking rum, he decided to turn himself into a monstrous creature, cursed to serve endlessly without purpose, which led to his cruelty and villainous nature. He stopped doing his job, let all the lost souls rot in the ocean, and turned himself and his crew into a bunch of sea monster-human hybrids. One of his most notorious acts was summoning the Kraken, a monstrous sea beast to hunt down and destroy ships. A cautionary tale, really. If a sea goddess asks you for lifelong devotion, maybe don't carve out your own heart when things go south. Flowey. Flowey from Undertale is what happens when you mix a talking daisy with the emotional range of Broken Toaster and the morality of a Saturday morning cartoon villain if that cartoon was directed by a maniac. He starts off acting all cute and friendly, like a little botanical tour guide, until he smacks you with the classic "it's kill or be killed" philosophy. Flowey wasn't always this way. He used to be a kind little goat child named Azrael Dreamer, but after a tragic incident involving his human best friend, a lot of death, he got resurrected as a soulless flower. And without a soul, he couldn't feel love, compassion, or even the mild inconvenience of stubbing his toe. This left him with nothing but boredom, and the omnipotence granted by being able to reset reality. He then went full-blown psycho. When he absorbs all the souls in the underground, he mutates into this Lovecraftian horror called Photoshop Flowey, a horrifying fusion of Photoshop and nightmares, complete with a hideous grin, flashing glitchy eyes, and an attack pattern that makes dodging taxes look easy. He basically becomes an unhinged god, using save states and resets to make sure you die in as many creative and humiliating ways as possible. At one point, he literally crashes the game just to flex on you. Anton Chigurh. Anton Chigurh is the cold-blooded, bowl-cut sporting, murder enthusiast villain from No Country for Old Men, both the Cormac McCarthy novel and the Coen brothers film. He's not your typical bad guy. He's a philosophical hitman who operates on the whims of a coin toss, treating life and death like a particularly high-stakes game of blackjack, except only he gets to be the dealer. Imagine if the Grim Reaper had a Texan accent, a cattle gun, and the patience of an IRS auditor. Chigurh doesn't just kill people. He does it with such cold precision and eerie logic that it feels almost cosmic. He believes in fate, but in the worst way possible. If he decides it's your time, you don't get to argue. Unless, of course, he lets you call heads or tails. Good luck with that. You know a cattle gun? Yes, the thing normally used to slaughter livestock. Chigurh uses it to blow holes in people's skulls and even to casually pop open doors, like some kind of murderous locksmith. And if you think he gets his comeuppance, think again. This man walks away from a car crash, calmly limping off into the sunset like some kind of death-dealing cryptid. Because in Chigurh's world, he is fate, and fate doesn't lose. Kid Buu. Kid Buu is the final and most chaotic form of Majin Buu from Dragon Ball Z, and he's basically the universe's equivalent of an unruly toddler on a sugar rush, except instead of breaking lamps, he destroys planets. Before he became Kid Buu, Majin Buu went through different transformations, but once all that was stripped away, what was left was a pink, bubblegum-looking demon child with the temperament of a caffeinated raccoon and the destructive power of a cosmic horror. He casually wiped out the Earth just because he felt like it. He didn't monologue, he didn't give a dramatic speech, he just raised his little hands and boom, no more Earth. No villainous build-up, no reasoning, just pure, chaotic destruction. He also wiped out entire civilizations before even getting to the Z Fighters, so it's safe to say he was on a universal crime spree long before Goku and friends showed up. Let's not forget his habit of turning people into candy and eating them. This maniac didn't just kill his enemies, he snacked on them. It's one thing to be a ruthless killer, but it's another level of disrespect to turn your enemies into a chocolate bar and then enjoy it. Kid Buu was so dangerous that Goku literally had to wish for him to be reincarnated as a good person just so the universe wouldn't have to deal with his nonsense again. Frieza. The galactic overlord, interplanetary real estate mogul, all-around tyrannical space lizard. Frieza is one of the main villains in Dragon Ball Z and a recurring antagonist throughout the Dragon Ball franchise. Some villains have tragic backstories, right? Some are driven by misguided ideals, death of a loved one. But Frieza? Nah, he's just a pure, unpasteurized sadist who enjoys wrecking entire civilizations like they're sandcastles. He commits genocide as a hobby. Entire planets wiped out just because they weren't vibing with his aesthetic. He was paranoid about the Saiyans becoming too powerful, so instead of talking it out over some tea, he eats an energy blast so strong it turned the whole planet into space dust. He turned Namek into his own personal playground of destruction. He terrorized its peaceful slug people, murdered them left and right, and stole their Dragon Balls so he could wish for immortality. He even killed a kid for fun. After being sliced to ribbons by future Trunks, he comes back as Mecha Frieza and immediately gets diced again. Years later, he resurrects himself just to train for 4 months so he can come back stronger. And what does he do? He gets his new golden form and then immediately loses because he didn't train for stamina. This man was so evil, so arrogant, that he forgot to check if his own body could handle the power boost. His actions are not just about conquest, but often about making others suffer, proving that his cruelty is not just a means to an end, but an integral part of who he is. Hey everyone! Thank you all for watching until the end. I'll be back with more videos, so make sure to like and subscribe.